Hello, today in this video I really want to talk about some tips that I want to share for some like other game devs and like other solo devs in this video, because I know how hard it is to actually make a game. So I wanted to use this video to share some information that I think is going to be useful, or some tips that I want to talk about in this video. So let's just get into it. The number one thing I really want to talk about, this is like a starting tip, is for people that are especially solo devs, right, that are making their dream game, is that you don't have to be shy for using public assets or free assets online. If you don't know, there are a lot of websites online that just give you free stuff, like for example, there's free sound for sound effects. Itch.io has a plenty like section for every kind of asset, right? There's also like open open game art, right, .org, that also has like assets. Now you should look at the licenses of these things, and I know some people find them annoying, but if you like want to save a lot of time, you should 100% use these assets. A lot of people have this stigma that okay, it uses free assets, it's low quality. A lot of people don't like inconsistency in those games. Okay, so if you're using an asset, the thing you have to master is to make sure that asset fits your type of game. I had a lot of high resolution type of assets. I had to make them low resolution to fit my game. Of course, if I just use in my retro style game, use like 4K quality assets, a lot of people are gonna say, okay, this does not fit. He paid no attention to that. So I just wanna start off by saying, use the assets that are given to you, for free. You can just use public domain if you don't want any like credit. You don't want to give any credit whatsoever. You can also use MIT and all these other licenses. Pay attention to the license and everything will be fine. But I do promote the idea of using public assets, because you're gonna save years of time. Like there's a very big difference from people that have doing this as a passion project, and some people that are like professional in like 3D modeling or sound design, right, etc., etc. So that's number one. Number two, I really just want to talk about, know the genre that you're making a game for, right? So what, this sounds very obvious, and you're gonna be like, okay, this is like obvious, like something that anybody will pay attention to. But there are a lot of developers, right, that are like, let's just take two things that don't add up and try to mix them together, and you just have a game that like nobody wants to play, right? You have a game that has elements that really don't go together. An example of this would be, let's just say I'm making a run and gun game, right? I'm making a game all about the arcade shooter, and it has like unskippable cutscenes, right? Every 10 minutes you have like an unskippable cutscene where people start talking. Now, one of the very big reason people enjoy run and guns is that it's 1 hour of content, but it's like 1 hour the entire playtime, but it has like a lot of content in it, and it has extremely high replayability, right? You can have people that are doing 1cc runs, having high score runs, playing the game 1000 times. And if you have like ads, that will just like straight up kill your game. Even if you're like, okay, I'm gonna make a game with a run and gun game with a story, that's just gonna not go together. So you have to really pay attention for the genre that you're making a game with, right? Because sometimes two type of things don't really mix together, and you should really understand what type of game you're making. Of course, you can like go around this by having, let's just say, minor cutscenes, or having skippable cutscenes, or maybe the cutscenes don't play on replay or something like that, right? But know the genre that you're making with, and the like upsides of that genre, and why people enjoy those games in the first place. So that's gonna be part number two. um Tip number three, is task priority. So the one thing you have to know as a solo dev, right? And I'm talking about solo devs here, because indie devs, you can have 30 people working in an indie dev, right? Indie dev is more or less about the budget. So you can have some company that has like, this is rare, but you can have people that are like 10 people working on one project, and people will call it indie, right? No shade to them, they work hard, and we should always, I always respect game devs, right? Even any kind of game dev I respect. But as a solo dev, you have extremely limited time, right? You don't have as much time. You have to like focus your work, and you have to spread your work across sound design, 3D modeling, or whatever you're doing, right? Programming, you have to do this. You probably should, or you probably have like a list you keep. I use Notepad. Yes, I use Notepad, but some people have like entire apps for like writing down their task. So where am I going with this, right? So the thing I'm saying is that sometimes people will have tasks that um, will make it look like you're doing progress on your game, but it's just you're basically making an illusion for yourself. So let's just say I have a task that says optimize the game, fix these bugs, and I have a task that says, hey, change this material, right? So if I'm changing the material, right, I'm working on those tasks, I might look at myself and say, I'm making progress, I'm going okay, I'm making the game. But the task with about like optimizing the game or debugging is way more important. So I'm just talking about, right, polishing the game might seem extremely important, and it is, but there are some tasks that are way more important that you should focus on, and you shouldn't like make this illusion of that you're doing massive progress on your game and you're not. Another problem I see with this is that some people that make devlogs, right, will focus on a lot of the flashy stuff like making a boss fight or adding new features and all that. But some of the things which are not flashy, like fixing bugs, optimizing code, etc., etc., right, they'll just leave it, because honestly nobody wants to hear about optimizing code. Like a lot of people watch game dev like devlogs for entertainment, not education, which is like a hard pill to swallow, but it's true. So you have to focus on this. I see a lot of the time devs do this, or some of the devs that I met anyway. And for the final like tip, and this is kind of like something that's very important, which I think this tip saved me all the time, is to group tasks together that are very similar. What I mean by this is that, let's just say you have two type of tasks: programming tasks, right? Yeah, and you have like artistic tasks like working on Blender. So instead of like doing a programming task, then going to like doing a 3D task, then doing a programming task, what you're actually doing is wasting a lot of time. Because what I've seen is that, let's just say I've been programming for 7 days, right? I've been focused on optimizing. If I go to Blender now, it will take me like at least a couple of hours to like 1 or 2 days to maximize my efficiency. Like I'll have to, I wouldn't say I forget everything, but I do have to like have this time where I'm remembering all of like the shortcuts or all my files and what I was doing, etc., etc. Now this might be just like for me only, but once I noticed this, I would group my tasks together. I would understand, okay, it's going to take me 1 or 2 days to fully maximize my efficiency on this task, and then do them together. And I saved a lot of time for this. And this is like a very important tip that I want people to try out if they can, of course, especially for solo devs, right? You don't have a lot of time. There are ND devs you have to like market against that have like 10 people working on them. So this is one of those things that I really want people to try out if they can. And this is gonna be it for the video. These are just like 4 tips I really want to get into. If you think, what do you think about these tips, you can leave it down below. Wishlist my game. You might have seen some gameplay footage in this video, that what I'm making and what I used. So if you find that type of game interesting, wishlist. And thanks for watching my video.